We have covered The Amazing Spider-Man, and now it is time to do The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Is it any good? Let's find out in just a second. However, before we get into all that jazz, hit that like button and hit that notification bell. That would be much appreciated, and let's get into it. So, Amazing Spider-Man 2, where to start? Oh, obviously, I think the best place to start will be, is this the worst Spider-Man movie of all time? Because to me, it might be the worst Spider-Man movie of all time. If you could name a worse one, let us know down in the comments down below. But for me, this is easily the worst one, as they overcrowded it with so many villains, and they made the same mistake again that we saw with Spider-Man 3. As they overcrowded it, too many storylines, too many villains, it just didn't make sense why they did the same mistake again. The only reason why this film is even memorable is Gwen Stacy's death. Let's be honest, everything else, no. It's just like an utter shit show of so many ideas, like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. No. Slow down. That's what should have happened. They should have gone, whoa, we can make 3 films out of all these ideas that we've just tried to cram in one. Let's be honest, I think this shouldn't have had Green Goblin in. For a start, I think they should have gone, actually, do we need Green Goblin this early on in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise? As we just saw practically a full franchise of the Sam Raimis using Green Goblin in 3 films. Why do we need to go over Green Goblin again? And you're always going to be compared against the Sam Raimi version of the Green Goblin. And obviously nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to be as good as Willem Dafoe. And obviously you might be somewhere close to Harry Osborn's version of the Green Goblin, but it's just not the same, let's be honest. And he really should have been a part of a completely different film, as there was no mention of him in the Amazing Spider-Man, or little mention of him. I can't remember anything to do with him in the first film. However, when we jump into the second film, it's like, oh, they're best mates, we've known them for so long, and it's just sort of like, really? Do we know these characters? And to me, that's what didn't make any complete and utter sense there, because they just went, oh, let's just create it in this film. Instead of building it up over several films, they rushed into that. Because, to be honest, they could have introduced Harry in this one and then build up to him being Green Goblin in the next film, but they didn't do that, and instead had Electro and Green Goblin in one film. On Electro as a villain, I felt that he was a positive addition to this Spider-Man film, as he felt new, fresh and exciting. However, the change in him from being yellow to blue, obviously in the comics he was yellow, and then they changed him to blue, was something that upset a lot of fans, and obviously created a bit of a divide between the fan base. Obviously, I haven't read the comics, so that didn't really bother me as much, but let us know down in the comments down below if that was a reason you didn't like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film. But to me, that didn't bother me. It was the fact that they didn't give him enough time to shine. It's like in the Sam Raimi universe, in the franchise, we saw that there was at least 2 or 3 big superhero versus supervillain fight scenes between him and whichever supervillain it was, whether it be Green Goblin or whether it be Doc Ock. We saw several different fight scenes between the 2 characters. However, in this one, between him and Electro, you had their main fight scene, and then if memory serves, you didn't have anything till the end of the film. And that was annoying, but simply for the fact that you didn't get to see this new supervillain take on Spider-Man at least a few times. However, we didn't get to see that for whatever reason, and I think that would have been cool to have really worked on that, but they didn't, okay? But I think a major part of the failure for this particular film was also the fact that they were spending a lot of time building up the stuff to do with his parents, and how his parents was part of Oscorp. And to me, I think it was a weird story angle. I don't know, I think it worked in a sense because it was something we never seen before, an exciting backstory on his parents, in which weren't exploited enough in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. However, I don't think they really did it right. And was it needed in this second film? I don't know, or did they just rush it and get to the end of it straight away, or should they have shown a little bit of him learning about his parents and then build up to it in, let's say, an Amazing Spider-Man 3 or 4, and get to the grip of who his parents actually were, but they sort of rushed it. that's what is wrong about this film. They just rush things, and that's what annoys me so much about this film. Before I go on to the ending, I think it is also great to remember that Andrew Garfield weren't the reason this film failed. I think he was fantastic, and even at the end where Gwen Stacy dies in a dramatic fashion, that crushes him. And in the No Way Home film, I think we see that in his face, and I love his character and him as Spider-Man. I think he should have had a third film, but unfortunately that wasn't meant to be. But I don't blame him for the failure of this film, because I don't think it was him at all, as he acted his absolute arse off and really played the Spider-Man character well and should have had a third film. On the ending though, I think it was quite weird, as to me, you had the big battle between Electro, and then Green Goblin just shows out of nowhere and causes a nuisance. However, the battle with Electro was quite simple. It was one of those where he found out how to defeat him, defeated him quite with ease, put a plan together, and the rest of it dealt with him. And then Green Goblin comes along and spoils the party and gets Gwen Stacy killed. I think that ending was brutal and such a great ending, something to actually remember the movie by. It didn't feel like such a monumental moment it probably should have if the overall film was better and more well-rounded and more well-written. And it felt that we hadn't seen enough of Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy to really sum up the franchise. I think it upset a lot of fans when they killed her off, because it was like, oh, aren't we going to have a third film with those two in it? Because they were great, they had great chemistry. And I think in a third movie, I think they could have done that death in that particular film or the next one after that, as to me you hadn't had enough time with those two characters to basically kill off that character, in my opinion. So to summarise The Amazing Spider-Man 2, for me this is easily a 6.7 and an average film. So let me know down in the comments down below, is it your favourite film? Is it one of your worst films? Is it the worst Spider-Man film of all time? Let us know all that jazz down in the comments down below. Also, if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, and I shall see you fine folks in the next one. Laters.